It's Bernard, and today I'll be doing another EDC update for 2025. It's been about a year exactly since my last EDC update video, so it'll be fun to see how my EDC has changed and how my philosophy towards all this gear has changed with it. But if you're new to this channel and don't know who I am, my name is Bernard, and I'm the founder of everydaycarry.com and also the co-host of our podcast, Carry the Way. I started everydaycarry.com as a personal blog on Tumblr back in 2009, so for over 15 years, I've been into EDC gear and yapping about it on the internet. But I'm sure you're not here for me, you're here for the gear. So let's go. First, I'll start with my knife. I'm carrying the Kaiser Feweed, and it's like this sub 3-inch blade, small folding knife designed with cool futuristic design elements. So it has like these kind of triangular thumb studs, but not really. And then it has these carbon fiber onlays, cool backspacer, polished DLC blade with a harpoon blade shape. And it's just really interesting looking. And it's got a front flipper for deployment and then the dual thumb studs as well. And you know, this isn't really something that I would say is my aesthetic, but the design is so interesting that I couldn't help but gravitate towards it. It actually surprised me how much I like this, and it's held up well. You know, it has a lot of what I like in a knife. It's small, it's pocketable, but it just opens really snappily like you would kind of expect with Kaiser. I had a Kaiser frame lock as my EDC in the last video, so isn't much of a surprise, but aesthetically it is a bit of a departure. This is from a new designer out of Vietnam, and I think they did a great job. They brought a lot of good ideas here, but unfortunately I think I'm gonna have to retire the Kaiser Feweed and look for a new knife, or just pick something else from my collection and rotate back in, because there is something with this knife that I noticed while I was testing it at my local food bank. So on the weekends I volunteer and stuff, but something happened there with this knife that makes me not want to use it anymore. And I don't know if it's a feature or a bug, but there's something about the way that this is designed where it has a front flipper tab here, right? So you can do like a thumb rollover, but somehow it also deploys as a wave mechanism out of my pocket. And that happened when there were people around me, and what that means is the blade just fully deploys or even partially deploys, which is kind of dangerous. And that's just not something I want to have happen at all when I'm around people. And I just really don't value that kind of functionality. So with that said, you know, I prioritize safety over coolness. But otherwise, this is a great knife. All of it is good except for the fact that it can deploy like a wave. I don't want that, and I don't have the best control of that. I kind of know how to do it on command, but it's just something I would rather not think about. So for that reason, I'm probably going to have to retire the Kaiser Feweed. I think I'm going to look for something that's similar in shape and design, but something more optimized for reverse flick. That's kind of what I prefer. And also a lock mechanism like a crossbar button or compression lock or top liner lock, something like that, where my thumb isn't in the path of the blade when disengaging the lock. That's kind of my speed. So if any of you have recommendations for that, let me know. I'd be down to check it out. But that is the knife in my EDC. And then last video, I had a section for my flashlight that just went back into the EDC pouch, and I don't really carry a dedicated flashlight in my pockets in that way. So I'm going to jump into what I love the most out of EDC, which is watches. So these days I'm really into watches and watch collecting, unfortunately, but that's just how it is. And on the wrist today, I have the Grand Seiko SBGY011 Asabarake. So this watch isn't that different from the watch that I had in my last EDC update video, which was the SBGW289. That was a 37mm manual wind mechanical movement in a 44GS style case from Grand Seiko. This is pretty similar, but I would say in some ways a little bit more of an upgrade, and in some ways not so much. This is a 40mm 44GS case, except now it's a manual wound spring drive movement, which I think is an upgrade over the 9S64 manual wind movement, just because Grand Seiko spring drive is so unique. They're the only ones that do it. The manual wind makes it very thin. So this is, I think, around 10mm thick, just very comfortable in that way. And the dial is similarly textured and white, silver-ish champagne, depending on the light. It's just really a beautiful watch. It's got a heat blued seconds hand, very clean, symmetrical, no date, 3-hander. It's just maybe a little bit too big on my 16cm or 6 1/4 inch wrist. But for those times then when I don't want to wear something that's kind of so expensive and so big and conspicuous, one of my most recent watch acquisitions is this vintage Grand Seiko. This is a 4522-8000. So this is a 45 GS manual wind high beat. That's about 9mm thick, and it has an instantaneous date function on it, which I find useful for what I do at work. I just have a bunch of deadlines and content to put out on certain days and campaigns to keep track of. So it's nice to have, and this is slightly smaller at around 36.5mm case diameter, and just very comfortable on the wrist because it's so light and thin. However, it is a vintage watch, so it basically has no waterproofing. When that is a concern, then I would probably wear something like the more modern SBGY 011, because this has 100 meters water resistance, and I can just throw it on a bracelet instead of this leather if I really want more of a sporty experience. With that said, I love Grand Seiko, so I have 2 of them. The last one was a Grand Seiko. I have actually a bunch more, so I might do a state of the collection video. And I know a lot of you guys came here from my watch content, so thank you for that. And if you want to see the full watch collection video, please give a thumbs up and subscribe, and then that'll let me know that's something you want. Before we get into the rest of the video, I just want to give a quick heads up that not everything in my EDC that I'm going to show you today is something that I paid full price for. So because of the nature of my job, a lot of this gear was sent to me by brands for free to test out. But these are my honest opinions. They don't know what I'm saying about them in the script. They didn't pay to be included in this video or anything. I just want to be honest and transparent with you guys. And on that note, all of this stuff is linked in the description to buy, but they are going to be affiliate links. So if you purchase using my links, I might get a small commission, and that just helps keep this channel and Everyday Carry as a brand going. But with that said, I'm going to be talking about my phone, wallet, and key setup next. And just want to mention that a lot of those products are from Ridge, and they're the parent company of this channel. So just keep that in mind. For my phone, I am using the iPhone 15 Pro Max, just because I do a lot of content and I work on my phone. I'm using this mainly for the cameras, and this is in the natural titanium finish, just goes with the rest of my gear. But I have it protected by a Ridge leather phone case, and it is definitely beat up and patinaed. You can even see like some of the edges of the aluminum buttons are starting to turn silver, so they're losing a little bit of that color, and the wear is really showing through. It looks pretty cool, I think, and it's held up really well. So I've been using this in the case since it came out, and it matches my wallet, which is the Ridge bifold. I've been using wallets like this before switching to a metal wallet like the Ridge, but then now that Ridge offers this, I kind of went back just to test it out. So if I open it, you can see that it's more of still a modern minimalist kind of take on a leather wallet bifold. So I do carry cards and cash in here. I think I have 8 cards and once folded cash in here. So it's still a considerable amount. It still feels like a minimalist wallet, but it still has RFID blocking. It's still plenty durable. It's more comfortable actually because it's leather, and it looks nice. It's been patinaed a lot, and I think some people really appreciate this look, and it goes well with my phone case. But now my keys. My keys are like this modular setup on this titanium carabiner, also by Ridge, but this is where I think I actually cook. So the basis of this setup is this Ridge dual chamber carabiner. It's made of grade 5 titanium, so it's light and strong. It's got a built-in bottle opener right here in the bottom section, but the dual chamber design makes it such that it's really difficult, if not practically impossible, for you to lose your keys just from opening and closing the gate as you clip it and unclip it to your stuff. I actually have 2 keyring setups for modularity. One is just my apartment keys and my car keys, and then the other one is my Keychain EDC setup, so it actually has tools and different functionality on that. And then I have it on this strap that I repurposed from a bag from Outlier, and it has dual snaps, and it just lets me wear the carabiner either on my belt loop like a normal carabiner, and then you kind of get this really long lanyard to be able to pull and grab from, or I can wear it cross body, almost like a fashion accessory, but it just sits on my body in such a way that it's the right length for my hands to open doors and stuff, not get in the way. It just looks cool, and it's modular in that way. So if I do need my tools, then I can always have them on me, but then if I'm traveling or I'm going to a place where I can't carry a bladed edge, then I could just take it off. I think it's really cool, and I don't see anyone else carrying their keys cross body like this, and I've always been a big proponent of using your keychain as an EDC platform on its own. It maximizes the space of stuff you already pretty much have to carry, your keys, right? So with that said, I'll go into the keychain tool setup. And on here, I basically have a micro EDC setup, and it's on a titanium split ring by Handgray. And then on it, I have a Rovivon A3 in the MAO finish. So that's the micro arc oxidation, kind of looks like stone or marble. This has a Nietzsche 519A emitter, so it has a really nice tint to it. And to be honest, I don't even know the max lumens on this thing. It's more than I need. It's enough. It's plenty. It's more than my phone flashlight, but I'm not using it to, search football fields away. And it's also USB-C rechargeable from the exterior. That's very convenient for me. I don't like switching batteries if I don't have to. Next, if I just want scissors or a small screwdriver, then I have the Victorinox Classic SD in ALOX. So that's just mainly used for scissors. And then if I'm trying to open boxes or packaging tape, which is a lot of the times, then I like having just this Gear Infusion Ghost TI utility blade. It's kind of like just a basic box cutter in that sense, and it doesn't really raise eyebrows as opposed to freaking like wave deploying my knife. You know what I mean? I think a lot of people kind of underrate the utility blade as an EDC item. A lot of people like their pocket folders and stuff. That's fine. But then just a keychain utility blade is so convenient for when you're just trying to open a box or cut through packaging or just something that you don't want to mess up your main blade for. And then it's just so easy. So with this one though, deploying is a little bit difficult just because you have to push out with the friction of your thumb on the blade, but putting it back and like disengaging the lock and all that stuff, it's very easy, very deliberate. And I just like that it's as minimal of a frame you can get for a utility blade of all the ones that I've tested. So I really like this one, and I think this one's going to stay on my keychain for a while. Lastly, not the most utilitarian, but this is a small travel atomizer for my cologne. This is the Mordico Nano Sprayer. I know it's not a necessity, but I like to smell nice. It kind of like elevates the outfit. You know what I'm talking about. So that's what I got in here. And then I can also just throw this in my DOP kit when I travel or something, and I don't want to bring my full fragrance bottle, right? So that's the keychain setup. Next, I'll talk a little bit more about my tech stack, I guess. So I already told you how I have the iPhone 15 Pro Max, and then making a return from the last video is also the first gen Onyx Books Palma. And this is kind of just like a very thin e-reader. It's an Android device, but I basically only use it for reading books and very occasionally like manga or something. And this is supposed to kind of just help me consume something other than social media. And I like having it as an option just because it weighs next to nothing for the size. It's very light and the battery life lasts a really long time, especially if you turn off Wi-Fi and Bluetooth and the automatic backlight and stuff like that. And then to round out my tech stack, I usually have a pair of AirPods Pro in the newer gen, but then I actually have two pairs just because I'm constantly using them. I constantly have them in my ears, like if I'm recording a podcast or I'm reviewing footage, or if I'm in work calls or FaceTime calls after work, listening to music, listening to podcasts, watching YouTube. I kind of need both because I'm just burning through the battery. So I have two of these AirPods, not on me at the same time. Usually I'll have one in my desk and then one in my pockets. Last but not least, to round out my core pocket carry is actually kind of what some would call pocket trash. So I do have a couple of things that I keep in my coin pockets that are not traditionally utilitarian, but they're really nice pieces of gear nonetheless. So let me show you those. The first are these 15mm stainless steel mala beads from Around Square. And if you don't know Around Square, they're a Canadian-based brand. They make focus tools, manipulatives, fidget toys, if you will, but they're a lot more than that. And if you really want to learn about the brand, I did like an awesome interview with Matt from Around Square on our podcast. It was one of my favorites. And I basically use this to have some kind of tool for focus, mindfulness, breath work, just because it offers really nice tactile experience and heft. And I can just keep this in a coin pocket and it really just comes out of the pocket very rarely these days, thankfully. But before, man, like when I was like pretty anxious and stressed, it would be nice to just have these and run them through my fingers, like in my pockets. Nobody would really see what I was doing, but it did offer a little bit of comfort, kind of get me back into a more regulated mental state so I could just live life a little bit more easily, right? So I think that's definitely a valid use of EDC if it helps you in that way, right? The next thing is this pin that I got as a gift from Good Art Hollywood. So Good Art Hollywood is kind of like the EDCers jewelry brand if you're into jewelry in that sense. They've done collabs with like GRW Gear, Lucas Burnley knives, just cool people in the EDC space. I'm a big fan of their jewelry, so they're the ones who make my ring and this bracelet and this chain. And they sent this to me last year, and it says on it, "Thank you for a real good time." And it's a pin made of 925 sterling silver. It's done by hand in their foundry in Los Angeles, and it has cool textures and like polishing and this coin edge on the side and stuff like that. So you can kind of just manipulate it almost like a coin, I guess, almost kind of like a challenge coin that's popular in the EDC scene. But I like to think of it as a reminder of gratitude in my pocket to say thank you for a good time. So I try to keep that close to me. And that basically is my core pocket carry, but I do carry some other stuff outside of just my pants pockets. I do have an EDC pouch. It's this guy right here. And it's not something I keep in my pockets, but it's something that I'll have in the car, in EDC backpack, or when I'm traveling, or in whatever EDC bag I'm using for the day. And this is just for the stuff that I want access to, but I might not necessarily use fairly frequently. Not gonna lie, it's pretty random, but it's a mix of like personal care. So I have things like Lactaid pills, chapstick, Listerine strips, band-aids, and then other things that are tech related. So I have a USB-C to SD card reader. I have a flash for my camera. I have a microfiber hank from Awesome Hanks. I have sunscreen, like a tube of sunscreen. And then I also have a backup knife. This is the round square base knife in the American Tonto. So this is an S35 VN steel blade in a grade 5 titanium frame lock with a small clip. Really cool knife. I like this one a lot. The Loop Gear SK03 Pro I have in there just as a backup flashlight. I also have a pen. I have the Big Eye Design titanium mini bolt action pen. And then I also have hearing protection in the form of loop earplugs. I have two variations actually. I have the one for concerts and then the one just for conversations. Hearing protection is pretty important to me and I recommend everyone has a pair. And the pouch itself is from a menswear brand, I would say like a technical menswear techwear brand called Outlier that are based out of New York City. And then this one is done up in I believe it's a nylon material that is highly performant. It's water resistant. It's not quite like Dyneema or ultra high molecular weight polyethylene, that kind of stuff. It's a different material, but it functions similarly. And then there's this 550 paracord zipper pull on YKK AquaGuard weather resistant zippers. So overall, it's like a durable, lightweight, technical fabric construction with weatherproof materials to just house all my gear. There's no real internal organization or anything. I just kind of toss everything in here and then dump this into another bag. In that pouch, I mentioned that I have like a flash for my camera and an SD card reader. So in addition to all this, I do like to try to carry a point and shoot camera. Point and shoot is probably my favorite camera platform. Ever since I started blogging, I was using just a small Canon PowerShot to take my blog photos of my EDC gear, my pocket dumps and that kind of stuff. So digicams are really important to me just for the nostalgia factor and their EDC pocketability factor. It's just funny that they're like trendy now, right? From like Gen Z and Gen Alpha girls on TikTok. I just think that's really hilarious. But I usually like to keep a camera, and between the two, for my more serious, more modern stuff, I'll have a Ricoh GR3 in one of two variations. This one's the Ricoh GR3X HDF. So this is a 40mm focal length with a HDF highlight diffusion filter built into it. And it kind of gets you these dreamy, bloomy highlight type of photos. Or I have the more traditional standard 28mm focal length Ricoh GR3 Diary Edition. So those are my go-to. Really excellent camera. I've been using that since like 2018, that platform. So I really like the Ricoh GR3 and highly recommend it if you want really high quality, almost professional type photos in something that you could just keep in your pocket in your EDC. It's like one of the best EDC cameras. And then as far as a digicam for EDC these days, I really want to get more use out of this. This is the Contax TVS Digital. I think Contax is obviously a great film camera. If you're into film camera, it's kind of iconic, but this is the digicam version of that, I believe made by Kyocera in like 2001. something like that. But it's just a very beautiful camera. Then you might be wondering, okay, well then how am I carrying all the extra stuff, right? Well, I do have a bag for it, and dude, this thing gets me the most compliments out of anything else in my EDC. You might think like you're cool with your EDC and people are gonna notice and appreciate that. That's probably not the case. Maybe other like EDC nerds out in the wild might compliment you on that. I highly recommend that you do that. If you see somebody with cool gear, just like come up to them and be like, yo, that's some cool gear, and then have a conversation. But I will say, like, if you're trying to impress people, like nobody really cares. But this bag that I use has gotten me so many compliments, mostly from women. Who knew? But that might be because it's basically like a purse. But no, this is a very small tote bag that I found in a Korean donut shop in their merch section. So I've never even tried their donuts, to be honest, but I saw this bag in the window. I was like, dude, I have to have this because it solves a lot of the pain points of my bag conundrum when it comes to EDC. I need something that is off body for the summer, so it's not hot and sweaty, but also top entry because I have cameras and stuff and I want to be able to quickly pull out the camera instead of have to unzip something, and I don't go to, I don't know, high risk areas and stuff. So I don't need the most security. But with that said, this does have like legit features in it. It has a magnetic closure, and then it has a top down quick access dump pocket. And it also has an integrated keychain ring that's like sewn in so I can clip my keys into it. And it's made entirely of like terry cloth so that it's soft touch and it doesn't scratch stuff that's inside. And then in the bottom, there's a harder surface so that it adds structure and it stands up on its own even when unloaded. So it's just a very good tote bag in just the right size. So I can fit my EDC pouch at the bottom, and then my phone, wallet, keys, e-reader, and a camera, and then maybe AirPods and even a little bit extra all in this bag. And I just like carry this by hand. So I know it's not like the most masculine looking or the most EDC or tactical or anything, but yo, it gets the job done, and it wasn't super expensive. I just found it in the wild. And there's something cool about that, right? When you find something you've finally been looking for from a place you least expected it, and it really works, I think that's a valid EDC as any. That just about covers it for my whole EDC in 2025. Let me know in the comments what you guys thought about this whole thing. I think in the future, I'm going to try to pare things down even more. And also, I probably won't be trying to add new things to my carry. I think I'm trying to get to a place where the updates are far and few in between, and just really get a lot of long-term use and really understand the product and how it fits into my life and how it makes my life better. Because I think that's what EDC is all about. And these days, with every like the release cycle being so fast and drop culture and like social media, it kind of gets overwhelming when you see so much new gear and you kind of want that next shiny thing. I'm trying to slow it down. Hopefully I can normalize that for everybody else who might be watching this type of content and really looking for maybe acquiring more when really you probably have enough. But I realize that EDCs can change and so can we. And I just really appreciate you watching and being on this journey with me. So with that said, if you guys have any questions for me about any of the gear you saw here, leave a comment. If you want to lightly roast me for my stuff, that's fine too. But hopefully you enjoyed the video. And if you did, please like and subscribe, as it really helps the channel. And I do want to make more content for you guys. This year, I'm really trying to grind YouTube. I have a bunch of ideas that I want to do and open up the discussion for things that maybe there aren't other spaces for us EDCers in the community to talk about. I think that would be interesting. And if you're interested in what that might look like, you should also check out my podcast on our podcast channel called Carry the Way. We're over 1,000 subs now, and we make podcasts every week, and the discussion is really fun, and I would love to invite you guys into that with me. But that's enough for me for this video. Thanks for watching, and until the next one, peace.